Hello viewers, and welcome to another edition of Spartan Showcase. I am your host, Andy Kiros, and today I welcome Superintendent Mr. Carney to the show.
Thank you, Mr. Kiros.
So Mr. Carney, we all know that you're superintendent, but what exactly does your job entail?
The job entails a lot. By title, I'm the Chief Executive Officer for the school committee. And what that means is I'm in charge of making sure policies and procedures are in place throughout our schools, making sure that we're complying with Mass General laws, making sure that we're providing an academic program and list of services for students that are appropriate and marketable for kids, so that when you leave our care, you have a great chance of success at the higher education level and possible careers that you're pursuing.
And what would you say is your favorite aspect of the job?
I mean, things like this. One minute I can be sitting in a cafeteria with kindergarten students, helping them put their straws in their juice boxes, and an hour later I can be sitting here with high school kids talking about what adult life is going to be like. So you get to see both ends of the spectrum and be involved with kids at all of the developmental stages of their life. That's really exciting.
And what are some of the challenges someone in your position faces?
I don't know too many superintendents who like to deal with the budget, to be honest with you. It's a 10-month process, at least. It's challenging when we know that we do not have the resources to provide everything that we want to provide for our kids, but we do the best that we can and make do with what we have as best as possible. So sometimes that's challenging politically because we know that many citizens in our communities have challenges in paying bills from one week to the next. So we have to find that balance, servicing our kids the best way we possibly can and using the resources that our community provides to us. But it's stressful, it really is, because many communities across the state and the country are finding gaps in their needs and what they have.
And speaking of Uxbridge as a whole, what are some challenges the district faces?
I think the economics of it, to be honest with you. We see, as I mentioned just a moment ago, what we're trying to do is provide you such a quality education that once you leave Uxbridge High School, many colleges and universities look to our students and say they have a quality program here and they've done well at that local public school and we want them in our college. Or someone who's an employer looking to hire somebody. We want to make sure that our kids in Uxbridge are as competitive as everyone else. So that's going to always be the challenge, providing our kids tomorrow with all the programs and services that we were able to provide kids who came before you.
And your job always comes with some controversial topics.
Yes.
And of course, fundraising has been a topic of concern recently. So what is your position on the fundraising debate?
Well, as I said, part of the job is ensuring that school committee policies are being carried out. The language of the policy says that school committees typically discourage fundraising, and this is why. We want our kids to come to school every day focused on their tasks at hand, meaning their schoolwork. Fundraising has its place, obviously, when we're struggling for resources and providing all the services that we want, so it does have its place. But if it becomes too distracting, number one, for kids, that's when we need to weigh in a little bit. Or if we're soliciting, if we're becoming, a group, meaning all students, staff, the district, and soliciting families for one activity after another, we find and we've heard from families that, I'd wish I could make just a contribution, say at the beginning of the school year, maybe write one check and distribute it out to all of the things that you need to. Because if we have overlapping fundraisers and competing fundraisers, we find that we're going to a common group of parents 1 month after the next. And when we're approaching them, sometimes it can lead to some uncomfortableness because not all parents can write that check or provide some cash to that cause. So there's a level of guilt if they can't. If we could move in a direction where we're doing some fundraising that brings the community together, like events. So many events happen at Blissful Meadows or restaurants where if you go to a restaurant, a percentage of what was collected that evening goes back to the school or event. So I've seen in communities when school districts do more of that effort, it does two things. It addresses the cause that you need, and it brings people together.
So do you see this debate going away anytime soon?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's going to go away. I think what we'll do better is looking at what we want to do for the following school year. Where do we need to raise the money and how? What we don't want to do is by the time all of our classes reach their senior year or after, there are large accounts for classes that lead to confusion sometimes. You know, we want you to spend your money down on the activities that you want, but if we're telling our public that we need so much money for this, so much money for that, and your days at Uxbridge expire and there's $10,000 in the account. Why is there $10,000 in the account? You said you needed this money, and so we have to be careful when we're asking people for money. It needs to be for what the need actually is, not to just raise and build up accounts as large as we can.
And speaking of this fundraising debate, a lot of this topics goes on during Mr. Rubin's school council.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your involvement on the UHS school council?
I'm involved in all the school councils, not necessarily directly, but indirectly. My job, again, as the superintendent, is to make sure we have synergy in a district. So when we start with our strategic plan and we align district goals on things we need to address, from mathematics to technology to literacy, there's a number of different things that, for the end game, for you as high school students between the ages of 15 and 18, there's a lot that needs to get done before you ever enter high school. So our goals in school improvement plans start at the Taft level, and always thinking in mind of where we need to get you by the time you reach Uxbridge High School. So my involvement with all of the principals and their councils is to make sure there's synergy, making sure those efforts, because the charge of the school councils is to address the school improvement plan, assist the principal with the budgeting, looking at and analyzing handbooks to making sure that they're up to date. So we want to make sure Taft is connected to Uxbridge High School. Now, if fundraising is coming up as a topic for school council, it's not necessarily a charge of the school council, but if it's impacting the improvements that you need to make overall as a school, that's where those debates, probably stem from. So I attended one of the school council meetings a couple months ago where that was a topic, and they wanted school committee input, they wanted my input, and I think we expressed what I did here with you today, of just be conscious of what people can give when you're planning out your year in asking for financial support.
So what are some changes you would like to see district-wide?
That's a pretty big question. You can go in a number of different ways. I think that for a district, and I want to make the district as a microcosm of our community, we want our schools to be that microcosm of democracy that we hope Uxbridge could be, as well as Massachusetts. So in order to do that, I think we need to do a better job of bringing our community back in. And not just about the fundraising stuff or student activities like drama or the band and chorus groups or athletics, really getting our public and our citizens involved with the learning. Because if they're going to invest in the future of Uxbridge Public Schools, they want to see where their investment is going, what skills are we trying to build with you, and really connect so that we all have the same appreciation and ultimate goal, and that is for you someday. Once you leave here, you go through college, you get a job, you start to raise your own family, you want to come back to Uxbridge and start the cycle all over again. Your kids will be the next generation of Uxbridge. And if we create a value in our community for education and community service, I think people, once they leave here and become adults, they'll want to come back. But if we don't have that at the front of our attention, I wouldn't blame kids for not wanting to come back. So that's an effort from our youngest parents to our senior citizens.
And before your job is done here at Uxbridge, what would you want to accomplish the most?
I think what I just said. I said that the first day that I interviewed for the job. I want 100% of our kids graduating from Uxbridge High School and being really marketable for four-year colleges if they want to go. If they don't want to go to four-year colleges, it's not because you weren't prepared for it. It's because of a choice. You wanted to go to two-year college, you wanted to go to the military, you wanted to go right into the workforce, but to leave you with many open doors of opportunities. So 100% graduation, 100% of our kids with an individual plan, an action plan of where you're going to school or where you're going to work, and then ultimately a high percentage of our graduates coming back to raise their families here. I can't think of any bigger goal than that.
Do you have any final comments before you leave here today?
I do, Andy, thank you. This is just a reminder to the public that on Tuesday, January 31st at 7 p.m. in the high school auditorium, the school committee will be holding its second public hearing. This is the final public hearing before they have to vote on the school department's budget for the 2017-2018 school year. So they really want to hear from their citizens. Will they be accepting the town manager's recommendation, or will they be pursuing an override? So a lot is on the table for discussion and debate, so we encourage our school department employees, our citizens of Uxbridge to attend this public hearing on Tuesday, January 31st at 7 p.m. in the Uxbridge High School auditorium.
So that's all for today's show. I'd like to thank everyone here at UCTV who made this production possible, and I thank Mr. Carney for your time. And we'll see you next time on Spartan Showcase.
Thanks, Andy.